this as a case study. Do you mind if I record?
No.
Okay. As a case study. So I'm analyzing it as a building, trying to see how it's constructed and how it's written itself, and what are the references that are present within the text and the visual references and so on. And putting it afterwards in the medium context, so the context exactly of Ignacio de Sola Morales and the date in which it was presented, where it was presented, and so on, and then a larger context of where the ideas come from and how it's related to the larger context of the construction of Barcelona, the fall of the Berlin Wall, the Olympic Games, and so on, to see if there is a connection, and afterwards how the text was received, how it was received, why it's so much quoted, and why this text became so much like the Bible of the terrain vague. Why did it become so important? And because there were other texts being written on similar topics, and the whole period of the 90s seemed to be revolving around such ideas that seemed appropriate to the new constructions of big spaces. So that's so I'm trying now to meet people here in Barcelona who are related to Ignacy and who knew what happened during the 90s and how it's, and of course each person has their own interpretation and their own idea of Ignacio de Sola Morales and their own idea of terrain vague, but it's nice to have all these voices.
Okay. And this is for your thesis, not for
yes.
this thesis.
Okay, so sorry. Hi. I'm Lebanese originally. I did my bachelor in American University.
I know Beirut.
Yes.
I like it very much.
Pre-70s, post-70s?
Post-70s.
Okay, good.
Just now, I meet Beirut in the 90s, the late 90s.
Okay. Well, that was a good time. Yeah. That was a good period after the war. So I did my bachelor in the American University of Beirut, AUB.
Yes,
Okay, good. And then I did my master's in Politecnico di Milano, and I did a DPEA specialization master's in Paris-La Villette. And now I'm doing my PhD in ETH Zurich. So
probably you have a director of the...
Yes, Philipp Ursprung.
I didn't know.
It's part of the history and theory architecture department.
Okay, so probably you meet Matteo sometimes in the...
Yes, I met him a few times, yes. Okay. But everyone is busy, so... Sorry? Everyone is very busy, so I try to meet whoever can meet.
Okay, so I think it's a very significant point. It's also important, or it was important, or it is still important. I was quite close to Ignacio Sola Morales. He was my professor in theory, history, architectural history, or composition. I don't remember the name of the item. It was composition or architectural history, theoretical matters. No? And after we were together as members of the Mies Foundation, we are members of the Council of the Mies Foundation, and we lunch one time each month, more or less, with Luis Ortet, that was the director until 1 year ago of the Mies Foundation. No? And we had years ago a talk with Jacques Herzog from Herzog and de Meuron, and I was talking about terrain vague, and he told me, how do you are using these words? And I remember I said, I think this is a way to describe this common situation, especially in Mediterranean cities or and he asked me, but did you invent this word? And I said, well, I don't know if I invented, but I think about that. And after, in these years or in these months,
Yes.
I read from Ignacio Sola Morales some text talking about Terrenbach.
Yes.
And it was always a mystery for me.
Yes.
I, in some way, in an inconscient way,
Yes.
I hear from Ignacio the word, or several people, Herzog, Ignacio, myself, and
Yes.
probably others,
Yes.
we express something that was in the air,
Yes.
let me say. So
Yes.
I really don't remember myself discovering by reading a text or by talking with someone, Ignacio, the word. It was my interest.
Yes.
I felt in the middle of this kind of space, no? In
Yes.
this year. So it's an intellectual relationship, probably, but to be right. In fact, well, it was more a consciousness of a reality that a kind of communication that suggested me this word. But I can say this for sure. I am not
Yes.
sure, but
Yes.
it was not an intellectual interchange. I insist. It was my conscience. I want to be arrogant. That I invented this, and probably Ignacio invented at this end of
Yes.
or the days or months or years before. I don't
Yes.
know which is the first or the second. Is the question.
Do you remember, like, when did you have this discussion?
Yes, it was a lunch after he was building the Liceo. You know that he was the
Yes.
architect of the new Liceo. He was building the Liceo. We met at the Ramblas. We were Luis Ortet and myself, and we were going Ramblas direction to the sea, to the harbor. And Ignacio came from the Liceo, very, I don't know the name in English, sudado, with
Sweating.
yeah, sweating. And we said, Ignacio, what happens? Oh, it's a very hard work because it's very complicated,
Yes.
economical problems. And I thought, he looks very tired. Okay, we go to lunch. And we to lunch, and we usually we talk after the lunch, and we talk about this Terrenbach, and I said, no, Terrenbach. But it was a thing that it was also my thing.
Yes, of course.
More the theoretical way. In theoretical, I always like to mix theory and action.
And action,
I think
yes.
is the best pleasure in our task, no?
In our profession, yes.
So. And also, I said, in Herzog, in the same years, we were talking about this, and he asked me if it was an idea from me, I don't know, but I really think about that because it's my ordinary life.
Yes.
So,
Well, do you remember the year?
wow. No, I think it was in the late 80s, probably.
Okay.
I think, because after it was impossible to meet anymore Herzog because he became so busy
Yeah. Okay.
making buildings
Yes.
around the world that it was not easy to maintain a relationship with Herzog. So I think it was, yes, it was before the 90s because I remember when I got the commission of the Valle de Lebrón, I was aware of this theoretical items, so
Yes.
I was not innocent.
Yes.
But I remember myself innocent when I thought in the first time in my language about this a name to describe this thing.
Yes.
I remember seeing the film from Wim Wenders,
Himmel über Berlin.
in Berlin.
Yes.
That I like it very much. It was also a very standard discussion with Matteo. Because I like the first part of the film, and he likes the second part of the film.
With Matteo.
With Matteo. And I always say, how do you could appreciate the second part. This is very boring, and he told me, but the first part is irrelevant. The important one is the second one. What was it? It was a standard discussion about the sky over, you know. So, and I like very much the first part of the second part with the colored part. No, I like the first one, and this ambience around the wall, no.
Yes.
And also the angels, all this ambience was very fascinating for me, because in fact it's the kind of spaces that we are related in some way. For instance, very soon in the 81, I think 81, we got Matteo and myself, that in this period we worked together. We got a commission about the Labastida, one school in the periphery of the periphery. I mean, Santa Coloma de Gramenet is a city in the periphery of Barcelona. In the periphery of Santa Coloma de Gramenet, we got a commission to build a big school, a professional school, and etc. And it was a totally periphery. And I think it was one of the first meetings with this reality. Of course, we knew it, because there are in these years there are many of these kind of spaces around Barcelona, in some way inside Barcelona also, where it was not something that was new for us.
Yes.
It was new for us, but the professional duty to interpret this in order to be able to build something in there, I think push us to consider this kind of nature, urban nature, no? But probably the entrance was maybe La Bastida, probably it was the first serious thought, or provoked the first serious thoughts about periphery, because this professional commission. No? And without words, because we are not with the background of the Rembrandt, we just think about the place, the situation, and etc. No?
Yes.
I think this is quite important. I don't know if it's important or not, but it's important for me, because I think at least, yes, myself, I don't know, Matteo, I am not, I think first of all is the professional relationship with the reality, and after there is an intellectual approach, let me say.
Yes.
I think is my way.
Yes.
Of course, I like the theoretical thought, and I like it, but I like it just to play with this. When I got a commission, so that the serious the play becomes serious. No?
Yes.
And it's through the commission, the duty of the commission, that I think I used to transform the play, the previous play, in something more ordinate and prepare it to action.
Yes.
I really don't like to be, let me say, to be in an ordinary life, to be serious, or to be always conscious about. I prefer just to, just to go.
You cannot. I don't think it's possible anyway. I
think it's a way to get more, it's a way to more information. Yes. Because if you are continuously fabricating ideas, the ideas, I think, are closing to you to get more inputs.
Yes.
So I prefer not be ultra conscious about what I am living or thinking or experimenting. But when there is a commission, all these backgrounds become ordered.
Yes.
And so without commissions, probably I didn't write a book, for instance. But the commission imposed a structure to these different inputs.
Yes.
So I think that La Bastida probably was put ourselves in front of the periphery situation, and probably yes, the first in between the 80 and the 90, it was when we talk. We started to use these words, no? Terrain bag, periphery, and another urban void.
Yes.
Urban void also.
Yes. Yeah, you wrote a text in Quaderns called Urban Void,
Yeah.
and in the text you also mention the text of Ignacy, but that's not about the same topic. It's about just evolution of urban fabric, and yeah, I found it very interesting because it came a few years before Terrain Vague, and somehow the thoughts. That's why I kind of came up with the conclusion that it was in the period everyone was kind of thinking about it. That, I mean, texts were somehow very close.
Imagine that in these years the official theory was more or less the Russian war, no? The Italian theory, no?
Rossi.
Aldo Rossi.
Yes.
But it was fantastic. But he was talking about the center of the city in some way. The important, the central spaces, the significant spaces.
Yes.
So we had this theory, but the commission that the young architects got in this moment were in the periphery. So it was not very useful.
Yes.
This baggage of ideas, etc. So we should to improvise in some way. Some instruments, no, in order to afford the situation. No?
Okay.
And the thing is, these instruments were not existing; were creating at the same time. So
while working.
Yeah, by working and by Well, after there was a coincidence, no, but
of course.
Herzog, we met Herzog in the Meron because we published in Quaderns a very single house that he built at the beginning of their career. So we met Herzog not through big ideas about void and drawing back, nothing. Just because we appreciated this little house.
Yes.
And after, step by step, well, we became interested in this kind of urban nature.
Yes.
But it was a thing that happened.
Yes. There are people who mention that there's a contrast between, or a complementary image between the Olympic Games and how structured it was, and kind of the complementary image of people thinking about voids and terrain vague. Does it seem to be the case for you? Do you think it was?
When I got the commission of the Valle de Lebron, I was aware about this discussion about the terrain vague, because it's still the 80s, because the Olympics were in the 92. And we started 6 years before. 6 years before.
Yes.
Just talking. And when I got this commission from Bouygues, that was the architect and responsible of the Olympic, of the urban affairs in Barcelona, I remember when I got this commission, I thought, fantastic, I could experiment these ideas that we are talking about. So it means that in 86 we are not innocents in about the theoretical approaches about the terrain vague, about urban void, etc. So I remember I felt happy because I think, okay, fantastic opportunity to afford this situation.
Yes. And did it lead somewhere?
Sorry?
Were you able to?
You mean the project?
The experiment, yes.
Yeah.
To Could you describe a bit what happened, if you remember?
I think the Vall de Lebron, it was a success. I won the FAD prize, that is the main important architectural prize in Spain, and the oldest one. FAD is FAD.
Yes, FAD,
Fomento de las
there's
Artes
a
Decorativas.
school or something.
And school.
Yes, or a center.
Well, now, the center now is in the Glorious Square, in the hub,
Yes.
the Glorious Square.
Yes.
It's a 60 years old organization
Well.
created after the Civil War, when the order of college was prohibited by Franco, etc. It was created as a very modest club of modern architects.
Okay.
And he got a lot of prestige because one of the reasons is its origins, almost secret. So it's the main and the oldest and the most prestigious architectural Spanish prize, and I won it in the '92 when all the Olympics projects were done, were candidates, and I won. And I didn't go. I was so radical that I was in this moment that I was against prizes. So the jury called me at home by night, and he told me, "You won the Mias prize. We are expecting you here." They said, "No, I didn't come."
Those were good times.
No. No, but I think this project was very successful, but the result is a failure as a urban space. As a urban space, the project is a failure. It's a check. It doesn't work because it was not only a project; it was a project and a process. I mean, to maintenance, for example, the maintenance of this couldn't be a standard maintenance like you maintain Plaza Catalunya. It's different. And the mayor, Maragall, he was a fantastic
I met him.
Mayor in person. He was fantastic. He came many Sundays because we worked also in Sundays because we were very work to do in a short time. He came to the center of the commandment of the work some Sundays, and we talk about Vall de Lebron, about things, and I convinced him that the maintenance of this should be a new structure. We make, because Maragall charges it and pay it to us, a study about the things that should be checked every day, every 2 days, every week, every month, every year, every 2 years, 5 years. The level of the workers involved in this maintenance, the prices. Well, it was a progressive maintenance. Okay. In the Vall de Lebron there are many pipes and many infrastructures of energy in order to, for instance, to celebrate rock concerts, rock meetings. There are many energy to connect the guitars, etc. To use these big planes to this. There are also the possibility to put shops inside. It is a structure. The project is not a image, a finished image. It's just a structure prepared to accept change of uses, different uses, shops, concerts, meetings, to be transformed. But it was the idea but the problem was that Maragall left the municipality, the church of mayor, and the ancient, the old structure came back again. And I remember perfectly the interview that I had with these people when Maragall disappeared. And he came and to talk with me about the maintenance of Vall d'Hebron, and I explained it to the boss.
Yes.
This idea, there is things that should be maintained every day, this is the level of the people, the cost, and after my speech they say, no, the first 2 years we didn't do nothing, it's not necessary. After the first 2 years we start with the maintenance. I said, no, it is a wrong idea, it's a wrong way. You have to maintain from the beginning. It's cheaper. You think that it's more expensive. No, it's cheaper. Because it's true that you spend money from the first day, but the money at the end is much less than the money that you will spend if you wait 2 years to get the things destroyed.
Yes.
So they did exactly this, and after 2 years, without any maintenance, there are many things destroyed.
Yes.
So they didn't have money enough to rebuild this destruction over 2 years, so started a
deteriorating.
Exactly. So the ambition, this is a problem, I think, in this country. That the ambition has a sense if it is maintained. You can live only by flashes of ambition every 5 years or every 10 years. The ambition should be maintained.
Yes.
If not, it is a nonsense.
Yes.
I think it's a lesson that we can get from the Olympics.
Yes.
I don't know if we did it.
I agree. It's the level of politics and this whole discussion is very important. I mean, it goes along with the economical level, and it goes along with the politics and economy and the social level, because going back to the theme, Morales does not seem to mention so much the political level, because he goes in the text, he goes on from photography and the arts, photography, films and exhibitions, photomontage. Then he moves on to a very etymological explanation of the words and what do they mean and what do they refer to as words, to put down this concept of terrain vague. And then he moves on to describe a social aspect, and he describes a culture, more or less cultural aspect, and then a very architectural urban aspect. So he talks about the city being estranged and why these spaces are important within the system of the city because they're out of the city, and a very social aspect of it. And then he moves on to discuss what could architecture and urbans do on such spaces, and he proposes a vague solution about focusing on continuity and discontinuity. But it seemed to me that the political aspect of this whole discussion is missing, that yes, I mean, there are these spaces within the city and they're out of the system, and the politics seem to be going hand in hand with colonizing architecture, the way he says it. But it stops at that, and I think what you're saying now is a bit of complementary to this discussion, that the aspects of the politics in Barcelona were changing in a way that it was not so easy to include it as a discussion within such a theme. I don't know.
Yeah. It's true. I think there are several aspects. Yes, I think it was a people, by chance, I don't know exactly why, that, like Maragall, that he was prepared to live in the exceptionality, so to maintain the tension for a long period. I think it is needed. It was needed. It is still needed, but there are only a few at the end. And after these big moments around the 80s and 90s, well, I don't know exactly what exactly happened, but some people considered that it was enough. It was enough to maintain the ambition for a period, and now, well, we are in the ordinary life.
Yes.
And this was a very big failure, I think. And also, talking about Ignasi, think that the Ignacy way, I think, is very, 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 very theoretical.
Yes.
I think he probably started from the pensiero.